began at home. Brahma Sutaha, sons of Brahma, he certainly, Avasan, did live. Urdvaretasaha, unadulterated celibates. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. The great sage Maitreya Hari Hari. The great sage Maitreya said, the four great Kumara sages headed by Sanaka as well as Narada, Rivu, Hansa, Aruni and Yati, all sons of Brahma, did not live at home but became Urdvareta or Nashtika Brahmacharis, unadulterated celibates. Once again, the great sage Maitreya said, the four great Kumara sages headed by Sanaka as well as Narada, Rivu, Hansa, Aruni and Yati, all sons of Brahma, did not live at home but became Urdvareta or Naishtika Brahmacharis, unadulterated celibates. Purport. The system of Brahmacharya has been current since the birth of Brahma. A section of the population, especially male, did not marry at all. Instead of allowing their semen to be driven downwards, they used to lift the semen up to the brain. They are called Urdva Retasaha, those who lift up. Semen is so important that if by the yogic process one can lift the semen up to the brain, he can perform wonderful work. One's memory is enabled to act very swiftly and the duration of life is increased. Yogis can thus perform all kinds of austerity with steadiness and be elevated to the highest perfectional stage, even to the spiritual world. Vivid examples of brahmacharis who accepted this principle of life are the four sages, Sanaka, Sanandana, Sanatana and Sanat Kumara, as well as Narada and others. Another significant phrase here is Naite Grihan Hyavasan. They did not live at home. Griha means home as well as wife. In fact, home means wife. Home does not mean a room or a house. One who lives with a wife lives at home. Otherwise, a sannyasi and a brahmachari, even though they may live in a room or in a house, does not live at home. That they did not live at home means they did not accept a wife, and so there was no question of their discharging semen. Semen is meant to be discharged when one has a home, a wife, and the intention to beget children. Otherwise, there is no injunction for discharging semen. These principles were followed from the beginning of creation, and such brahmacharis never created progeny. This narration has dealt with the descendants of Lord Brahma from Manu's daughter Prasuti. Once again, this narration has dealt with the descendants of Lord Brahma from Manu's daughter Prasuti. Prasuti's daughter was Dakshayani or Sati, in relation to whom the story of the Daksha Yajna was narrated. Maitreya is now explaining about the progeny of the sons of Brahma. Out of the many sons of Brahma, the brahmachari sons headed by Sanaka and Narada did not marry at all, and therefore there is no question of narrating the history of their descendants. Om Nagyana Timirandasya Gyanangyana Shalakaya Chakshurum Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Parakamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Ragunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitamscha. He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopipakanta Radhakanta Namostute Jayatam Surato Pangor Mamamanda Matergati Matsarvasva Padambojo Radhamadana Mohano Divyad Vrindaranya Kalpadrumada Śrīmad-Nangara Simhasanasto Śrīmad-Radha Srila Govinda Deva Uprishtalivi Samarao Smarami Śrīmandra Sarasaram Vivam Siva Tatatastitaha Karsham Veno Svanayr Gopir Gopinata Shriyestunaha Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Suta Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So once again the verse. Maitreya Uvacha Sanakadya Naradascha Riburhamso Runiryati Naite Grihang Brahma Sutam Hyavasam Urdvaretasaham. The great sage Maitreya said, the four great Kumara sages headed by Sanaka as well as Narada, Ribu, Hamsa, Aruni and Yati, all sons of Brahma, did not live at home but became Urdvareta or Naishtika Brahmacharis, unadulterated celibates. So this is a very interesting section of the Bhagavatam which is now starting, the story of Dhruva Maharaj. Dhruva Maharaj was a young prince, and the way the Bhagavatam is set up is that there is a conversation, and then there is a conversation within the conversation, and then inside this conversation there's another conversation, another story. So the Bhagavatam has many layers, many layers, and the foundational layer is the conversation in Naimisharanya between the exposition of Shaunaka Rishi, talking about how Parikshit Maharaj heard the Bhagavatam from Shukadeva Goswami. And then in the third layer is the conversation between Maitreya Muni and Vidura. So we are now in this third layer. Vidura is telling, and Maitreya is telling, Maitreya Uvacha. And the way the Bhagavatam is formed in the first cantos is that actually the genealogy or the family trees are mentioned, beginning with Brahma and then the different lines of dynasties that developed. And whenever an important person appears in that line, then the story becomes more elaborate, explained. Otherwise, very often only the name is mentioned shortly, and then it continues to the next generation. Like for example, in the line of the Sun dynasty, we have Lord Ram. So in the 9th canto of the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, there's a very long section of the Bhagavatam where many members of that dynasty are listed until Lord Ram appears, and then the story of Lord Ram is explained. And then similarly also the line of Kshatriyas or warriors in the line of Chandra or the moon god is listed until we reach the Yadu dynasty at the time of Krishna, and then of course also that is explained in great detail. So here we have a few great sages mentioned, and of course none of them had children, so they're only mentioned once here because they were brahmacharis, great brahmacharis. It's mentioned here, there's two words that Prabhupada focuses on specially, and the first one is urdva retasaha. Urdva retasaha. So urdva means to raise, and retasaha means the energy that can be acquired, or to Prabhupada translates it as where is it? Yeah, Prabhupada just says lift up. Those who lift up. So because there's a very interesting explanation in Ayurveda. There's different dhatus we have in the body. The dhatu, there's different layers of dhatu. So there's, as you could say, some type of anatomy, but it's focusing on a different level. So there's, there's the skin dhatu, skin layer. Then there is the bone, blood. And ultimately there is also the semen for men, and for female it's a little bit different. But the dhatus are layers of physical matter that become more and more, you could say, potent, or important, or powerful. And in Ayurveda it's mentioned that more or less, I think if I remember correctly, 45 drops of blood make up 1 drop of semen. So it's a lot of energy that is condensed, and of course the semen combined with the ovus of the ladies can create new life, a baby. And there is a very strong, you could say, emphasis that if you want to remain healthy, one should learn to control certain urges. So unfortunately I forgot the Sanskrit now, but there are 5 aushaudhis, like 5 main, you could say, forms of fasting that lead to health. So one should fast from the tongue at least twice a month. It's recommended to fast the tongue, to not eat. In general, to not eat, undiscriminately, to not eat more than the body actually needs, to eat, of course, ideally sattvic food, pure food, not processed, not with all kinds of additives, not, cooked somewhere where you cannot know how they cooked it. If you go to a restaurant or buy something prefabricated, you never really know what kind of, ingredients went in there and how the process of making it was conducted. Even on the gross level, regularly there are big food scandals. I remember in Peru many years ago, when I was a child, there was a scandal that the margarine, this vegan margarine, at that time there was not vegan, nobody talked about vegan, but everybody bought margarine because it was cheaper instead of butter. And they figured out that the margarine was made from the fat from the sewers. So in China also it's very common. There's these people. Sewers, Abwasser. So in China it's very common also. It's very known. It's a common practice in Philippines also. They open the lids of the sewage and the fat is floating, and they, harvest it with big spoons. They process it, with some energy, and then put some flavor, some color, margarine. And this is happening all the time. In Germany, I remember some years ago also there was a big scandal in some, I don't know what kind of food it was. They had put some, weird ingredient or some not clean process of production. So the best food is, of course, according to Ayurveda, the food that is grown locally. And even better than sattvic food is, of course, food that is prasad, that is offered to the Lord. And of course, the prerequisite to offer something in a Vishnu temple is that it should be sattvic. So we try as much as possible, to have local ingredients, pure ingredients, which we offer then to the Lord. So, for example, in the altar, we never offer pasta. We cook sometimes pasta still. But because pasta is processed before, and also you don't know how they dry it, Sometimes they're, nowadays everything is made with machines. But in the past it was very common to, you just make a big piece of dough and you just jump on it. That's how you make your pasta, or your dough. And if you had nail mold, then you also have nail mold in your pasta, So, yes, we should control the tongue. Very important. Sattvic, and ideally only prasadam. And we can also make prasadam at home. You choose sattvic ingredients and you prepare it. while you are preparing it, you're not supposed to taste. For many people, that's very difficult. When I tell them, when you tell people, I was teaching many yoga students. When you tell them that they're not supposed to taste while eating, they're very confused. Like, what? How am I supposed to cook? You put one spice and they taste a little bit more. Taste. So I had one friend. He was cooking. By the time he finished cooking, he also finished eating. He was full. Okay, I'll eat the rest later. So that's not the idea. The idea is that you focus. Yoga means that you are active and detached at the same time. And cooking is the best practice because you have to be very active. You have to be very attentive. Nothing burns. That you put the right ingredients, and at the same time you're detached. You're trying to make it as an offering for the Lord, and not for your sense enjoyment. So you always try to meditate. Whatever flavors come up, you might smell them, but you're not like, nice, a little bit more. You try to actually be detached. You perceive the flavors, but not in a mood to enjoy it yourself. And a good example that is given is, it's like if you would make a cake for somebody's birthday, and the cake is finished, and then one piece is missing. When you bring it to the person. So I was like, what happened to this piece? Oh, I had to try. I tasted if it was good or not. So it's not a complete offering. The cake has to be complete. In a similar way, the offerings we make to Lord Vishnu become complete when we add tulasi and devotion. Actually, the main ingredient is devotion. Our devotion, our love, our intention to please. Just like a mother would put so much endeavor in making, a nice cake for the child's birthday. In a similar way, we should make, with as much, as best intention as possible, we should offer to the Lord with devotion. And tulasi also very important. But ultimately devotion is the main ingredient. And there's this very famous story of Vidura. Maitreya is speaking here to Vidura. And Vidura is, of course, the uncle of the Pandavas. Theodor, hast du Kopfhörer drin? Na, hör ruhig zu. Du kannst danach nochmal nachlesen, aber es ist besser, wenn du bei der Sache bist. Hä? Ja, aber das gleichzeitig ist nicht gut. Frauen können ein bisschen Multitasking, aber Männer können es nicht so gut. Nee. Man sieht, dass du keine Frau bist. Wir glauben nicht an die Gender-Ideologie. Nee, musst du wirklich, also es ist sehr respektlos, in eine Vorlesung sich mit Kopfhörer hinzusetzen. So, what we're talking about? What's the last point? Tulasi? Huh? Devotion, Vidura. So Vidura was the uncle of the Pandavas, very great devotee. And once Krishna came to visit Vidura at his house, and Vidura was so excited, It's like when your guru comes, when the spiritual master is coming, everybody's exciting, running around, cleaning up, making everything nice, And in a similar way, imagine Krishna is coming, So Vidura was arranging everything, and his wife was preparing everything, and then Krishna came, and Vidura wanted to offer bananas to Krishna, but he was so excited that he, peeled the banana, and he threw away the banana and gave the peel to Krishna. And Krishna, Theodor, nicht Japa chanten. Du bist dann wieder richtig bei der Lecture dabei, also nicht Japa chanten gleichzeitig. Okay, gut. Das hat so ausgeschaut. Mach die Augen auf. So Vidura was in so much ecstasy that he completely forgot that he what he was supposed to offer. He threw the banana away, offered the peels to Krishna, and Krishna happily enjoyed the peels. So that's the proof that the main ingredient was not the sweet banana. The main ingredient was Vidura's devotion. Vidura's devotion was so pure that Krishna happily ate the bitter banana peels. I don't know if you ever tried banana peels. There's some medicine also, but they're bitter, not so sweet. Then another form of aushadhi, or form of recommended in Ayurveda for health, is silence. So we should, basically it's called the 5 forms of fasting. We should fast food, we should fast the tongue from speaking also too much. Because if we talk too much, without control, it's very likely that you will end up saying something that is, first of all, not true, or at least exaggerated, or you say something which is, not really necessary, or you maybe criticize somebody also. So the tongue has this tendency, gossip. We have, unfortunately, a taste for gossip. Tell me, what's the newest gossip? What's the newest gossip? What does this person do? And, oh my God, I can't believe this. What, this new couple? No, they don't fit together. Or whatever. So gossiping, about politics, gossiping about what other people are doing, and or we just gossip about, because we're talking about here about brahmacharya. Actually, it's said to gossip about sexuality, or the opposite sex. Also, it's a big part that we should try to control. Even if it's sometimes just joking, ultimately, all of this is part of uncontrolled tongue. In Sanskrit, sometimes it's called gramya katha. Gramya katha means village talk. So in a village, everybody's talking about something. This is like, I say it's a dying species, but they're the grandmothers. They're looking out of the window and they're observing everything. So, and they know exactly what's going on, who is doing what. Even nowadays, sometimes in Germany, in some cities, you see the grandmothers looking out of the window, looking at the gas station and who is coming and shopping, what they're doing. So, and then when they meet for coffee and tea, then they talk about whatever they saw, whatever they figure out. So Gramya Katha, village talk, as opposed to Krishna Katha. In the Nectar of Instruction, Srila Prabhupada says that it is better to be silent than to speak prajalpa or Gramya Katha, idle talk. But better than being silent is to chant Hare Krishna, or glorify Krishna. So we should use the power of speech in concentrated effort, and we should try to how you say? It says that I forgot the exact verse, but in the Bhagavad Gita it says that to offer your how does it says? When you practice silence, it's like offering an oblation into the fire of speech. So it's a form of tapasya. When you want to say something, you should think twice. Is it really worth saying it or not? Especially because there's a sequence of manifestation. You might have heard about it. First you think about it. If you think about it long enough, and then you say it. Then it's only a question of time until you do it. Especially if it's something not so good. You're thinking about chocolate, then you talk about chocolate, then you will buy chocolates. Something like that. So yes, very important to observe the mind and try to control and filter what you really say, what you speak. In Kali Yuga, it is said that actually what we think is not counted within our karmas. It's not counted. In previous yugas, even if you thought about killing somebody, you already had bad karma for thinking about killing somebody. In Kali Yuga, no problem. You can get annoyed, as long as you don't kill the person, you're okay, or don't talk about it. If you talk about it, also you can get suspicious. Yes. Then movement also, is considered. We should fast from movement. So that means we should learn to be able to sit strong and quiet. A yogi practices asana in order to be able to sit, quietly and without movement. So depending what kind of nature the body has, it might be more or less difficult. But especially in Kali Yuga, we all have some vata. Vata means we are, there's a lot of air, confusion, when in the winter, naturally also everything becomes cold, we shiver, So vata, creates, vata is like a horse, The horse is the symbol of vata, you could say. So a horse is never really quiet, They're always moving something and and there's some small sound and they jump, So that's vata, So we should learn to become very quiet, movement, control movement, the body, focus on breathing only, not eating, not talking. That's meditation. And there's two more. And of course, one is celibacy, to fast from on the 5th and the 5th, I forgot, unfortunately. But you can look it up, or I can look it up and tell you later. But yeah, I was telling all of this to come to the point of, because all of this is complemented or completed with fasting of the sexual appetite. It's also an appetite. It's also very strong. And if you fast from that as well, you fast from movement, you fast from talking, you fast from foods, you control that, and then you control sexuality as well. Then Srila Prabhupada says, yogis can thus perform all kinds of austerity with steadiness and be elevated to the highest perfectional stage, even to the spiritual world. So like that. So when Prabhupada says a yogi, it includes all of this that I mentioned before. So sexuality is, of course, you could say easily also misunderstood, or easily, because it's a taboo topic and not so easy to talk about sometimes, on different, whatever social frames we have. Sometimes it can also, we can develop all kinds of unhealthy situations, when we suppress sexuality in a way that is not healthy, then you can also get in trouble. And the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, interestingly, that those who suppress, while internally they're still thinking about the object of interest, are cheaters. So we should really focus on the root. What is the root cause of sexual appetite? And in the Bhagavatam, Srila Prabhupada talks about it quite a few times actually, how the original form of sexuality actually is called Adi Rasa. And the Adi Rasa is the relationship between Krishna and Radharani. And it's not material and cannot be compared at all with material sexuality, but the appetite and the flavor and the desire that what we expect to get out of sexuality actually is our hankering for this Adi Rasa. So in the material world, we are always actually hankering for something, and once we experience it, once we eat it, taste it, feel it, we are, underwhelmed, or we are very frustrated when it's gone very fast, because it's temporary. So, but this appetite or this desire is there. It's not because it's false. So that would be the wrong conclusion. The wrong conclusion is to say this appetite for sex is from the devil, something like that. In Christianity, that's what they do. it's from the devil, and you are, possessed by a demon, and maybe we have to cure you with some extortion. But in reality, the cure is to taste the original Adirasa. And this happens in different ways. Of course, if you are a great sage like any of the sages mentioned here, we have Sanaka Rishi, where is the list? Sanatana, Sanandana, and Sanandana, Sanaka, Sanatana, and Sanat Kumara. And Narada, and Hamsa was mentioned also here, Yati, Aruni, Ribhu, great brahmacharis. They are great sages who have, a big, deep, a realization of the spiritual reality, or maybe directly a relationship with Krishna. For such personalities, it is natural and easy to give up sexuality. But even great personalities like Daksha himself, he was mentioned in the previous chapters, or Brahma himself, for that instance, they had to fight with this urge of sexuality, and get purified and learn, through the process of marriage, how to channel this energy. And but ultimately, you could say there's no shortcut. We all have to develop taste for the Adirasa through the chanting of Hare Krishna, or by understanding and hearing the pastimes of Radha and Krishna. Then we will be truly free of lusts. Until we are filled with prema, with pure love, we always will be lusty, to some extent. This lust will remain. It's an urge of the body. And but learning to fast it is certainly very healthy and healthy and conducive if it's done properly. So just like fasting from food, it does not mean you should stop eating completely. Not necessarily. There might be some yogis who fast completely. When we were brahmacharis in Berlin, there was I think it was Qigong. Qigong is a Chinese tradition. Qigong devotee, you could say maybe. He was a devotee. He was very often in the temple, but somehow he was Qigong. He loved Qigong. And he started telling the brahmacharis, us in the temple, that it's possible to live only from light, And we liked the idea very much, So he was preaching to us for a few days. The brahmachari leader was not there. So when the brahmachari leader came back 1 week later, we told the brahmachari leader, so we have decided we want to follow, the Qigong path. We want to stay in the temple, but we want to stop eating, We don't want to eat anymore. It's much cheaper. You save time cooking. We save so much money, and we can just focus on the light. We have to just go, very often in the light and take light and prana and meditate, and we will manage, Of course, he told us after 10 days, you will have one astral journey, first astral journey, and then you will, be a little bit separated from your body, and then after 1 month again, and if you pass those 2 tests, then you can stay forever without food, So our Bhakta leader didn't like the idea so much. And he convinced us that it was not a good idea to try to live only from light, So in a similar way, sexuality is a very powerful appetite, So to let it go completely, prematurely, immaturely, can cause more harm than have benefits, So therefore, the idea of brahmachari is similar like fasting. Fasting on Ekadashi is extremely healthy, if you do it properly, If on Ekadashi you eat Goranga potatoes until you, die, then you don't have the full benefits, You have the spiritual benefit, but if you eat potatoes with cheese all day, and then it's not the same benefit. But if fasting twice a month, according to the lunar calendar, so we always fast on the 11th day in the waxing and waning moon, that's Ekadashi. it's scientifically proven to improve our immunity for cancer. So there's a very interesting TED Talk where, it was not a TED Talk, it was like a big conference on health. But this sannyasi, he was presenting this scientific discovery that they realized that the best for the body is to twice a month fast for minimum 10 hours, completely dry, So Nirjal Ekadashi, Nirjal. No eating, no drinking, no sleeping. So that's Nirjal. Minimum 10 hours, ideally 24 hours. And if you do that twice a month, the body develops all kinds of resistance, and I forgot the scientific names, but you could say some kind of molecules that directly burn or attack, eat up any cancer cells. Twice a month. And then of course the sannyasi was presenting first all the scientific discovery, and everybody in the audience who knows a little bit about Ekadashi, they're like, that's Ekadashi, yeah, that's why we do Ekadashi. So Ekadashi has a spiritual dimension. It's like, in the church, Sunday is the day where you don't work. In the Christian tradition, on Sunday you don't work, and Germans take it very seriously. So if you drill a hole in your wall in an apartment building on Sunday, you will be sure the police will come. If you want to meet the police on Sunday, just drill a hole in the wall. A few neighbors will call the police. So in a similar way, Ekadashi is the day where we should actually focus on, like a turtle, draw in the senses into the body, eat less, study more, chant more. It's the day of the Lord. So it's a spiritual day, but at the same time, there's a second layer, which is more selfish. We're just trying to avoid being involved with Papa Purusha. The idea is that the Papa Purusha, personified sin, is taking shelter in grains. So if you avoid the grains, you avoid the Papa Purusha, which is, you could say, secondary. The first point is to please the Lord. And on the third level, it's actually, if it's done properly, it's healthy for the body. So that's, for many people that would be more interesting, if you convince them that it's scientifically proven and beneficial for their body, for their health, because they're not so interested in Papa Purusha. They're like, what do I care about some sins? I've committed so many sins anyways. But if it's beneficial for their body and they don't have to suffer from cancer, then like, oh, that's good. So yeah, that's Ekadashi. But I started this for a different reason. What I wanted to say. I got lost in that part now. But what's the same before? Who remembers? What was the previous point? Taco, du hast übersetzt. Weißt du noch, was du gesagt hast alles? Huh? Fasten, yeah, fasten. Yeah. No, not the whole Ekadashi, just before the point about the benefit of Ekadashi in cancer. Huh? Yeah, okay, thank you, yeah. So, yes, so in a similar way that, we have direct benefits, from fasting, not completely, but regularly. And Srila Prabhupada actually also mentions very often that we should ideally fast according to the sequence of the Ekadashis, and on the appearance days of the Lord. That's when we should really fast. And he even very often discourages all kinds of other fasts. I don't know. You can do so many fasts. You can do, I don't know, eating. Like Indra Maharaj very often does, because he does this tour in America preaching. And when a sannyasi comes to an Indian family, you try to feed him as much as possible. Because the more the sannyasi eats at your home, the more benefit for your home. So you try to give him as much as possible. So he very often did this tour in America preaching. And of course also it's true that when the Indians have the feeling that they gave a lot of food to a sannyasi, they become very inspired to give also a good donation, because Nanjuna Maharaj was always collecting Lakshmi to set up the Polish tour festival, which is very expensive. 300 devotees, to feed them for 2 months and travel all around Poland and preach, so thousands of dollars. So he would always, comply. Of course, also was very nice prasada, so he complied and he pleased all these families. So after each tour, he was, very strong. So he was always doing cayenne pepper with maple syrup and lemon and water, just for 2 months. So you might do that, if you need it for your body for some reason. But ultimately, like fasting regularly on Ekadashi, having a regular diet, sattvic diet, and fasting regularly on Ekadashi can literally solve, all our main health problems. Of course, if you're very sick, you might need a treatment, special treatment might be there. But the idea actually in Ayurveda always is preventive, instead of reactive, preventive. Reactive is when you already have a problem and then you have to try to solve it. And preventive is that you lead a lifestyle in such a way that you don't become sick in the first place. And that's of course the ideal. If we manage to follow a good diet and take Ekadashi, take real advantage of Ekadashi. Of course, there's also the pragmatical side of Srila Prabhupada and also Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj. When some of the disciples in India on Ekadashi, they were all lying on the floor, they were trying to do Nirjala Ekadashi in the heat of India, 45 degrees, humid, so they were all lying on the floor, sweating and so Srila Prabhupada said, okay, cook some khichdi and go out and Harinam. So that's pragmatical approach might be there as well in a certain situation. But you should be smart about how you lead Ekadashi. You can have Ekadashi, you can drink a lot of fruit juices or milk, or only drink, that's also possible, only drink water, or drink only teas, or only very liquid foods, soups. But yeah, if you eat pizza, Ekadashi pizza, Ekadashi lasagna, and Goranga potatoes, and a lot of sweets, then probably not the full benefit of Ekadashi. Even spiritually, if you still chant your rounds, In Harikesh times, it was standard that you had to promise on Ekadashi to chant 25 rounds minimum. So many devotees follow that. On normal days, 16 minimum. On Ekadashi, the minimum increases, to 25 rounds minimum. Yes, I think I'll stop here. Maybe there are some questions. Somebody wants to add something, correct something. Then we'll stop here. Grantharaj Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam ki jai. Śrīla Prabhupada ki jai.